Okay. Okay. So, Joselle, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone. Ako si Giselle. I'm the Direct Services Coordinator for the Filipino Migrant Center.
Hi, kumusta po kayo? Ako po si Romeo Hebron. I'm the Executive Director for the Filipino Migrant Center.
So mag-uumpisa na po tayo. So I will call Romeo Hebron, ang Executive Director ng Filipino Migrant Center, para bigyan tayo ng training outline and overview.
Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so for this training, we will do it in English and Tagalog. So please forgive me. I'm also practicing and learning Tagalog, so I will try both. But for tonight, we will cover 5 topics. So the first one is, what kind of a domestic worker are you? Mahalaga ito dahil makakatulong ito sa pag-calculate ng dapat binabayad sa inyo. So this is important to know what kind of domestic worker you are. So that way we can help calculate what kind of pay you should be receiving. Number 2 is the rights of immigrant workers. So maraming caregiver ay migrante. So a lot of caregivers are immigrants, and they have the same rights as people who are not immigrants. So all immigrant workers have these rights. Number 3 is minimum wage. So hindi pareho ang minimum wage sa bawat city. So we will give examples of how to find out what your minimum wage is, because the minimum wage is different. It's not the same in every city. And then number 4, we will calculate your regular pay rate. So this is also important to know to make sure you're getting paid properly. And then the last topic for tonight is overtime. So nagtatrabaho ang mga caregiver ng maraming oras at minsan ay hindi sila binabayaran ng overtime ng mga employer nila. So caregivers work really long hours, and sometimes they don't get paid overtime by their employers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so for this training, we want everyone to know that everyone is an expert in your own way. So we all have different experiences, and sometimes and we could really all learn from each other. So we want everyone to be able to participate and share your experiences. Number 2 is that everyone has knowledge to share. So in this training, we want people to share about your experience in the workplace and as a caregiver. Pwede kayo magtanong kahit kailan. So anyone can ask any questions at any time. And then this is really a chance for us to discuss this together. And then number 3 is that being an expert does not mean that you have to memorize every single detail or every single wage. So there's a lot of information to share, and it's okay if you don't remember everything tonight. We can help you even after this training. So we can do a one-on-one conversation with you, or go to your workplace and help you if you need help with calculating your wages or any other services. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so for the goals, can someone please read the goals? Can I get one volunteer?
Sure, I can.
Thank you.
Goals. Develop a strong understanding of the fundamentals of domestic worker labor rights. Second, to practice and develop a familiarity with spotting violations and common scenarios. 3, to learn how to stand up for your rights at work if they are violated. To introduce and familiarize participants with performing wage calculations.
Yes, thank you, Kuya. So again, so for this one, for the goals, so we want everyone to develop a strong understanding of your rights. Number two is ngayong gabi mag-practice tayo kung paano malaman kung may violation sa trabaho para pwede niyo rin malaman kung may mga violations sa trabaho niyo. So we're going to practice to see if there's how to see if there's a violation in your workplace. And then so you could also find out about that too. And then number three is to learn how to stand up for your rights at work if they're violated. So after we find out if there are violations, we also want to do something about it because we can change our situation. So this comes from standing up for our rights. So nanggagaling ito sa paglaban natin para sa ating karapatan dahil lahat tayo ay may dignidad at dapat nire-respeto palagi. Yeah, so we want everyone to be able to stand up for their rights. And then last one is, again, we're going to practice together. So get your calculators ready. We're going to do some math exercises together to see how much caregivers should be getting paid. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so just to introduce what is the Filipino Migrant Center, we are a nonprofit organization. So ay isang nonprofit organization dito sa Southern California. Lahat ng mga serbisyo natin ay libre. Tumutulong po kami ang mga migranteng Pilipino, mga manggagawa, kabataan, mga matatanda at pamilya. So we help workers, immigrants, migrants, youth, seniors. We help families who with different services and programs for the Filipino community, and it's all free services. And we've really helped in the last 11 years. We've helped many caregivers and their families, including winning tens of thousands of dollars in back pay from their employers. So thank you all for coming tonight. And can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, and can we get one volunteer to read this one, please?
So our work, our dignity. What is the California Domestic Workers Coalition? We are a statewide coalition of domestic workers, community-based organizations, worker centers, domestic employers, labor unions, faith groups, students, and policy advocates. The coalition works to defend and expand the rights of over 300,000 nannies, house cleaners, and home attendants across the state. We've come together to confront a history of exclusion from basic labor protections and to advance the rights and dignity of immigrant women workers, their families, and their communities. We build power through legislative advocacy, grassroots organizing, and leadership development.
Thank you, Jazz. So we, the Filipino Migrant Center, we are part of a statewide coalition. And we know that sometimes, sometimes being a caregiver can feel lonely at times. But because you're working so hard, you're working long hours, but it can be by yourself. But we want people to know that there's so many organizations out there who are really working together to fight for the rights of caregivers. And caregivers who are fighting for their own rights. That's what's the most important. So there are hundreds of thousands of caregivers all throughout California, and we just want to share that you're not alone. This morning, we were actually, some of us were in downtown LA because there was a rally held with other caregivers and domestic workers to demand the rights of, statewide. So we want Governor Newsom to be able to ensure that there are rights and protections for caregivers. So there's so many people all across the state actually who are organizing. And there was also the same rally was also held in Sacramento at the very same time. So you could see how it covers all of California. So we just wanted to let you know that we are also part of this coalition of domestic workers. Okay, next please.
Okay, yes. So first topic is regarding rights of immigrant workers. Can I get the next slide? Yeah, so pop quiz. Do undocumented workers have the same labor rights as workers with papers? You know, next slide. Yes, yes, in the chat, yes. Oh, talaga. This is true. So yeah, no matter what your immigration status, mga karapatan ay kapareho sa mga manggagawa na may papel. So whether or not you have papers to work or paid in cash, you have the right to claim the wages you're owed and to speak up about your rights.
Okay, next, what kind of domestic workers are you under the law? Pag sinabi na what kind of domestic workers are you, ibig sabihin, iba't iba pala ang klase ng domestic workers. At malalaman natin kung ano-ano ito. So there's a different kind of domestic workers that we will learn the different kind of domestic workers. Next slide. Yeah, domestic workers work in private homes and hired either directly by family or through an agency. So sabi dito, domestic workers ka kung nagtatrabaho ka sa private home, it doesn't matter kung direct hire ka o galing sa agency. Domestic workers are nannies, childcare provider in private home, attendants to people with disability, and other adults, house cleaner, cook, and gardener. So ito yung iba't ibang klase ng domestic workers, nag-aalaga ng bata o nanny, nag-aasikaso sa bahay o katulong, nag-aalaga ng matanda o caregiver. Domestic workers din ang tawag sa mga hardinero, utusan o boy at marami pang iba. Depending on the kind of work you do, the law defines how you are paid overtime. So base daw sa uri ng trabaho mo, kung paano ka babayaran ng overtime. I will go more details about it later. Next slide. If you work in private home, spend the majority of your time. Can you back the slide? Personal attendance. Yeah. So if you work in private homes and spend the majority of your time providing direct assistance to older adults, people with disability, and children, and 20% or less of your time doing housework, then you are considered a personal attendance. So tandaan na personal attendance daw, yung tinatawag, ito yung mostly or more than 80% of your work ay nagbabantay o direct assistance sa alaga mo. At only 20% lang ang nilalaan mo sa paglilinis ng bahay o gawaing bahay. So sa iyong kabuang oras, pag 20 So, doon daw i-define yung overtime natin sa California law. Next slide. Can someone volunteer to read this slide? Any volunteer? Yeah.
Our dignity, what kind of a domestic worker am I? Am I a companion? If you are a caregiver to an older adult or person with disability and you provide fellowship and protection such as conversation, reading, playing games, accompany the person on walks, errands to appointments or social events, and
Di po nilagay sa rep to?
do not spend more than 20% of your work week on providing assistance with daily care activities like dressing, grooming, transferring, bathing, etc., then under federal law, you are considered a companion. and have different overtime rules. Depending on the kind of work you do, the law defines how you are paid overtime.
So ano naman daw ang companion? So ikaw daw ay companion kung ikaw ay caregiver at 80% ng trabaho mo ay pag-a-assist lang sa matanda. Sinasamahan mo sa mga errands, pakipag-usap at iba pa. Pero di ikaw ang nagpapaliko, nagpapalit ng diaper o nagbibihis ng matanda. Most of your time, just keep on eye with your patient. So ikaw po ay companion. So just keep on eye with the patient, you with the patient. 80% of trabaho mo is just to keep on eye of your patient. And 20% lang yung like bring your patient in the bathroom, change the diaper, or cleaning, give hygiene to your patient. So ikaw po yung companion. Malinaw po. Yeah, next presenter.
Okay, next, we're going over the differences between federal versus state versus local laws. Next slide. Yes, so workers have the right to whichever law is strongest and gives them the most protection. So isang example ay kung minimum wage sa state mo, state of California, I think everyone is from California here. Kung minimum wage sa California ay mas taas sa federal minimum wage, then you go with the state wage. So para sa California, yung state law minimum wage ay $14.25 currently. Tapos sa July 2021, it's gonna raise up to $15. So keep that in mind. Sa July, it should be $15. Tapos yung federal law minimum wage ay $14. So starting in July, make sure that you claim the state law minimum wage, which is $1 more than the federal. And this goes for any other circumstance too. So if you have any questions comparing the different laws between state and federal, always pick the one that protects you the most. Next slide. Yes, so next is also the right to a written contract. Next slide again, please. Thank you. Yeah, so at the time of hiring, the employer has to provide a written agreement in the language of the worker that includes the rate of pay, including overtime and regular days of payment, the name and contact information of the employer. So kung mas naintindihan mo ang Tagalog, kinakailangan silang bigyan ka ng isang written agreement in Tagalog. Tapos kailangan nila bigay day one of hire. So if you do require a contract in your respective language, then they're supposed to give it to you the start of your hiring day. So the very first day, you are obligated to know what your rights are already in the language that you prefer. Tapos, sobrang mahalaga to keep your own time record kasi it is the obligation of the employer to maintain time records, but because yung employers sometimes nandadaya, sometimes they'll mess up your time cards or try to scam you. So it's important to have your own time card too that you keep track of your hours. Kasi ito ang ebidensya mo if you file a wage claim. So if you have any wages missing, the most important piece of evidence is your time records. So tapos regarding yung written agreement, kailangan mo mag-check kung information ng employer mo dyan tungkol sa pangalan at contact info. So you always want to make sure when you get any contract or any written paper that you have the information of your employer, specifically their name and contact info. Next slide.
Thanks, Giselle. So next we will talk about the minimum wage. But first, it's another pop quiz. So can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. I think my computer is freezing. Well, the answer is here. So hopefully everyone gets this question right. Do domestic workers have the right to earn at least the minimum wage? Yes, every domestic worker has the right to earn a minimum wage. So can we, next slide, please? Okay. All right. And then also here, so this is like an open book test. The answers are all on the slides. So do domestic workers have the right to minimum wage, even if they're paid a flat rate, such as per day or per week? So, yes, they do have the right for that. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so this one doesn't have the answer. So we actually want to hear from people. How much is the minimum wage? What are your guesses? You could put it in the chat or you can say it out loud. So we have $15 in California.
25.
What else? 25. Okay. How about some other guesses?
14.
14. Okay. Okay, so we have someone, it's a trick question. Someone, well, so yeah, it's a trick question, but we'll go to the next slide. So it does depend, but what we can say is that at the very minimum, regardless of your immigration status, regardless if you're paid in cash, the California minimum wage in 2021 is $13 per hour. If you're in a workplace that's less than 25 workers. So it's a little bit different. Yeah, so if it's for more than 25 workers, then the minimum wage is $14.25. But can we go next, please? Okay, so here is where it depends, because it depends on what city that you work in. And these are just some examples of the cities. So if you work in the city of Los Angeles, in a workplace with less than 25 workers, then the hourly minimum wage is $14.25. But say if you live in San Diego, it's $14. If you live in Oakland, it's $14.14. So that's why it's important for us to know if there are where you work in. And Long Beach has a different wage. I believe it has a different wage than the city of Los Angeles, so we can look that up. So it's very important for us to know this, but at minimum, no one should get paid any less than $13 per hour, because in the state of California, it's $13. So you should not get paid any less than 13. Okay. And then, okay. So, oh yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so this one, if a caregiver works for one family in Oakland in the morning, but then they drive to work in the evening for another family in another city, which is like Fremont, what is their minimum wage? What do people think?
Is it different for each city?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, couldn't see who said that, but yes, it is different in each city. So you're correct on that. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, yeah, so the worker qualifies for the minimum wage of the city where they perform the work. So if you work in Huntington Beach and then you have to drive to, I don't know, say Gardena for work at night, then you would get the minimum wage for that city that you work in. Okay, and thanks, Giselle, for answering the questions in the chat. Okay, next one, please. Okay, all right. So we will go next into calculating the rates like the flat rates. So we're almost getting there to start exercise or start doing those exercises. But can we go next to, yeah. Can someone please read this slide out loud? May gustong mag-volunteer para basahin ito? I think I see Harold with a hand. Yeah, okay.
Sure. So our work, our dignity, how to calculate your regular rate of pay. Can everyone hear me okay, by the way? Just want to make
Yeah.
sure. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. If you are paid by day, week, monthly, divided by the total daily hours, not to exceed 8 hours. Your regular rate is $15, $120 divided by 8. And to calculate your rate, if you work as a personal attendant, total hours cannot exceed 9 hours. In this case, your rate would be $13.33, $120 divided by 9. And then it's $120 a day, and I work 10 hours a day. Oh, sorry, I probably should have read that first, huh? Okay.
Okay, thanks, Harold, for reading that. So I know it's like a lot of numbers, but so again, in this example, even though you work 10 hours a day, we divided the $120 by the 8 hours per day, because that's your regular rate. But then remember earlier when we wanted to find out what type of caregiver are you or what type of domestic worker are you? Dahil kung kayo ay personal attendant, ang inyong standard work day ay 9 hours. So if you're a personal attendant, then your standard work day equals 9 hours. So from there, that's why we have to divide the $120 by 9 hours, which equals $13.33 per hour. So just again, it's why it's always important. The first step is to find out what kind of domestic worker or caregiver am I? Okay, next slide. Okay, and then for this one, so what happens if you get paid a monthly rate? So pwede pa rin natin i-calculate ang inyong hourly rate. So we can still calculate your hourly rate if you get paid a monthly rate. So in this example, you get paid $1,500 per month and you work 35 hours per week. So you multiply the 1,500 times 12, that equals 18,000. You divide the 18,000 per year, and you divide that by 52 weeks. So that's how you calculate how much you get paid per week, which is $346.15. And then if you divide that, the 346.15 divided by the 35 hours that you work a week, that's $9.89. So what's the minimum wage in California again?
$14.25.
$14.25. So yeah, that's definitely in the city. In some of the cities, it's $14.25. So but yeah, the minimum in California, no one should get paid lower than $13 per hour. So you were already seeing here, this person is getting paid, is not getting paid $3+ for every hour. And so that money could really add up over time. Very quickly, it could add up. So, okay, next slide. Okay, this next one is overtime,
That's
which
me.
we will hand to Giselle. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. You get the next slide. Okay, so pop quiz. Do domestic workers or RCFE or resident care for elderly or boarding care workers have the right to overtime?
Yes.
Yes. Talaga, correct. Of course. The next slide. Yes. Another one. Oh, it didn't change yet. Oh, shoot, sorry. Yeah. Yes, this is the right side. Okay, so ano ba ang overtime? Overtime is the hours work beyond regular hours. Kailangan mo magtrabaho. So if you are told that you are only
Yung kamukha ni Jap Jap eh.
if you are told you're only supposed to work 8 hours in a day and you notice that you are staying longer than after 8 hours because they're asking you to help with the patient because they need an issue, you are required, or they are required to pay you overtime no matter what. No matter if it's like just like, oh, it's just a quick thing, it doesn't matter. You should ask for overtime pay and make sure you check your pay stub if you notice that you stayed over longer than your hours. Yeah. So for tugo sa caregiver, yung overtime pay ay lampas, I think it's 11 hours. Tapos for personal attendant, you have it for 2 hours over. Can you get the next slide? Yes, so we'll be going over these more later too, but a brief overview. Yeah, there's different rules for different people. So kunyari, if you are a caregiver, tapos direct hire ka, tapos hindi ka companion, and maybe you're a live-in caregiver, then yung rule ay for every 9 hours, your additional, you should get paid overtime after 9 hours, basically. Next slide. Yes. So workers at board and care homes are entitled to overtime pay, like we said. So for workers that work after 8 hours in a day, or after 40 hours in a week, or after the first 8 hours on the 7th consecutive day, then they are required to pay you 1.5 times the regular rate. So yeah, this is yeah. So after 8 hours, after 40 hours in a week, tapos, so after the first 8 hours in the 7th consecutive day. So because you're actually obligated to even have a break after 7 days, if it is the 7th consecutive day, that whole shift, that first shift, then anytime you go over that, then it's overtime pay. Tapos kung you're working 12 hours after 12 hours in a day, or after 8 hours on the 7th consecutive day, so same instance as the last example, but yes, so sorry. Yeah, after 8 hours on the 7th consecutive day. And then it's also different for personal attendants, because if you're employed by a nonprofit institution or caregivers who supervise children in the facility, they have special overtime rules. But in general, if it's over 12 hours or over 8 hours in the 7th consecutive day, then you are obligated to 2 times the regular rate of overtime pay. Next slide.
Okay, so problem solving tayo. Sino gusto ng math? Problem solving. Yeah. So we will analyze this this problem. So i-identify natin si Luisa paano yung computation ng kanyang sweldo as a overtime. So ito po yung story ni Luisa. Luisa was contracted by Maribel to care for her 2 young children. Yeah, so mag-aalaga siya ng bata, so definitely she is a nanny. O yeah, katulong siya, nanny. She got the job through the reference from her cousin who cares for the children next door. So si Luisa daw ay i-refer ng kanyang cousin, so she's not hired by agency. So direct hired siya. She does not do any house cleaning and cleans dishes for only 1 hour per week. So yung most of the time niya, 80% ay pag-aalaga ng bata. Then she less than 20% yung paggagawa ng household cleaning. So si Luisa ay personal attendant. Maninaw po. Then Luisa worked 11 hours per day, Monday to Friday. She paid 15 hours. So yun po, 11 hours per day niya. So malalaman natin kung magkanong overtime niya mamaya. So she lives in with her employer in San Francisco. So natandaan po natin yung minimum wage na San Francisco kasi po doon tayo magbabasa sa pagko-compute ng hour niya. Yeah, so she's live-in caregiver. Okay, next slide na tayo. So which overtime apply for Luisa? Next slide. So we know that Luisa is a nanny because she's going to take care of the children. So ang next question, are you a personal attendant? Guess, sagot. Sinabi na natin kanina. Next slide. Yes. Luisa is personal attendance because 80% of her job is like take caring of the children. 20% lang yung ginagamit niya sa paglilinis ng bahay, sa paghugas ng dishes. So next question, on direct hire ba siya o hired ng agency? Remember? Next slide. So alam natin na direct hire siya kasi any agency. So sunod na tanong, kung companionship ba siya o hindi. Tingin nyo, guess. Someone guess in the chat kung companionship siya o hindi. Yes, from Isa, yes. Other guess, yes. Okay. Next slide. No. Hindi siya companion kasi ang companion, ibig sabihin, yung 80% ng trabaho niya ay just keep an eye on the patient or the children. But because she's take caring of the children, so she need to change the diaper of the children or give a bath of the children, give a hygiene for the children because it's a children. Hindi pa nila kayang magkasikaso na sarili nila, hindi pa nila kayang maligo, hindi pa nila kayang maglinis sa sarili. So Luisa is the one who doing that, all that take care of the children. So hindi siya companion kasi 80% niya yung pag-aalaga ng bata, pagpapaligo sa bata, pagpapalit ng diaper, So hindi po siya companion. Malinaw po? Next slide. Sunod na tanong, on live-in ba siya o hindi? Okay, next slide. Yes, live-in siya. Sinabi ko sa story, she live in nanny in San Francisco. So, yes po siya. Ibig sabihin, pag yes, papatak po siya sa 945. So, what is 945? Sinabi po natin, pag personal attendance ka, hours per day and overtime after 45 hours per week. So, yun po ang computation po niya sa sweldo. Next slide.
Kuya, before that, there was a question in the chat saying, how did you calculate if the household work was only 20% to determine that Luisa is a personal attendant? And then do you calculate it as 20% of the total hours, including the overtime hours? Or is it just the non-overtime hours.
The slide we can going back to the to the chart. Yeah, doon po sa chart, pag sinabing, for example, hindi po siya personal attendance, no? Ang sunod na tanong naman, the next question is, yeah, live-in caregiver, even yes or no, Papa. We will see a different computation of their overtime because we become 940. Yung isa po, 945. Yung isa po, 940 rules. Ibig po sabihin, ang 945 po, ano lang, after 45 hours, everything is overtime. Doon po sa, pag hindi ka personal attendance, 940. So after 40 hours po, overtime. So yung kung 20% and 80%, we just calculate that. So we will able to identify or distinguish if the caregiver or nanny is personal attendance or not. Nasagot ba yung tanong? So po yung calculation of overtime is depend po if you are personal attendance or hindi po. Kung companionship po siya o hindi po.
For example, Kuya, can I have a follow-up question? I'm still a little
Yes.
confused. Sorry.
Yeah.
So for example, the last example, I think her name was Lourdes. She only worked like 1 hour out of 11 hours, correct, per day on household chores. So is that the calculation? 1 out of or sorry, I don't know what the math was, but it's like it said she only does 1 hour per day. So if it goes above 1 hour, then she's no longer personal assistant, right? Or personal attendant. So she goes into the other side na.
No, we identify distinguish sa personal attendance is ano po sa kind of work. Caring of the patient, not doing any household or just 20% of her time doing the household, yun lang po yung to distinguish is a personal attendance. Not in how many hours she work. So that's why po mahalaga is very important to know is personal attendance or not because the computation of overtime base if you are personal attendance or you're not. Na-answer po yung tanong? Yeah.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
I'm not like 100% expert or sure of it, but when we do wage theft cases, yeah, it is kind of based estimated on their hours. So they would ask like, oh yeah, do you clean the house, do you clean dishes, how would you estimate the amount of hours that you do that kind of work? And I feel like that's kind of how the labor offices kind of estimate if you are a personal attendant or not. But in general, so if there's possible cases, like it's good to recommend that the caregivers make a log of their like a day in the life kind of thing, like this time this is what I did, this time I vacuumed the floor, this time, so that they can get a good estimate of their time. That's it.
Thank you, Yas. So, any question? Meron pa bang mga tanong? Wala na. Let's go to computation based on Luisa's story. We'll see Luisa is working 11 hours per day. So in 5 days a week. So Monday to Friday, she work 11 hours per day. Next. Yeah, because Luisa is personal attendance that spending 80% of her time is take caring of the patient and not only 20% of her time doing the household job. So she entitled in 945. So 9 hours per day are regular hours and 45 hours per week yung regular hours po siya. So Monday to Friday, she work regular. Next slide. So she's working 11 hours per day. So Luisa entitled to have 2 hours overtime per day. So in summary po, Luisa is working 55 hours per week. Her regular time hours is 45 hours per week. And her regular overtime is 10 hours per week. Now we go to computation. So, ibig sabihin, Luisa, working, so 9 times 5 is 45. So, remember, anong minimum wage sa San Francisco? Sino nakakaalala? Who remember? Is there? So, San Francisco, ang minimum wage is 16.7. So, her regular hours is 45 times 16.7. So, equals 723.15. Tapos yung overtime niya after 9 hours is 1.5 per hour. So she have 10 hours overtime. So 10 times 24.10. Yung 24 per 10, 1.5. So equals to 141. So we compute 723.15 plus 241. So Luisa should receive 964.15 per week. Next slide. $15 every week. But nakita natin, Luisa just only receive 15 hours per hour, $15 per hour. So 15 times 55 equals, so 825. So Luisa so is 139.15. So the employer owes Luisa 139.15 per week. Malinaw po yon. Kasi she get pay just per hour but not compute in overtime or how much in overtime. So 139.15 times 4 up per month. So Luisa, the employer owe her 556.60 per month. So if we compute, we are nagtrabaho si Luisa 1 year. So 556.60 times 12 months for a year. So the employer owe her 6,679.20. But if Luisa works 5 years, let's see. So ang total po niya ay 33,396. This becomes 66,792. So see, just Louis, the employer owe her 139.15 each week. So maliit lang kasi the employer didn't pay her the right payment in overtime, but still we see the numbers will compute. For example, you're working in the facility or the board and care more than 5 years or more than 10 years, you got this much. How about if the employer didn't pay you overtime? So mas malaki po yung pag talaga totally hindi nagbabayad ng overtime ang employer nyo, or binibigyan lang kayo ng flat rate like 1,000 per month o 1,500 per month, and we will compute yung salary nyo kasi if you are personal attendance after 9 hours per day, i-consider overtime na po yun. So we will compute and we get much larger number yung employer own nyo o sa inyo. Malinaw po? May mga tanong?
There's a question here, Kuya, that's how much is the pay for a salaried employee as a caregiver?
Yeah, pareho lang po siya, the same in minimum wage kung nasa city po kayo. So, for example, doon po sa pinakita namin kanina, yung how much yung minimum wage. Pero din po, ang kaibahan lang po, we need to compute talaga yung after regular hours mo is overtime, and after 6 days of work is considered overtime. So depende po sa city, where city did you live and what the minimum wage of your city. Dapat po doon po kino-compute ang sweldo nyo. Yeah. There's any more question? There's anyone wants to, we try, anyone want to share their salary, so we will compute how much. May gusto mag-share na sweldo? Kung magkano po natatanggap, how much did you receive per week, and how much, yeah, how many hours did you work per week?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Can
Romeo.
I screen share real quick, Jazz?
Sure.
So we have a calculator that we use to calculate it. So just in case if anybody wants to, we can. So this is an example here, and so we can just put all these different numbers in. But if anyone wants to, or if you want to remain anonymous, also it's you can message maybe message Kuya Lester. And then we won't say your name, if you don't want to reveal like your wages. Yeah, or we could just give an example if somebody wants to volunteer.
Yeah, anyone wants to volunteer that wants to compute their salary. So we will identify if your employer giving you the right wages.
Can I share?
Sure.
Okay, I work 120 hours a week for 5 days. Okay, and they pay me $20 per hour. So that's $2,400 for 5 days. Is that enough? Am I okay?
Yeah, we will compute po. So 120 hours per week.
Yes, for 5 days.
For 5 days. So
Yeah.
120 divide 5.
Yeah.
Para
So
malaman ha. Yeah,
I'm typing it
Romeo.
here. I'm also typing it here, Kuya, on the screen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, help me. 120 divide by
24.
So you are working 24 hours per day? Yeah, because
Yes.
we live in.
They paid while I'm sleeping.
So ito pong
But
24.
of course, I had to wake up.
Yeah. So to 24 po nito times 20. Yun
Yes.
po yung sinasahod nyo. Sige, we will compute
Yes,
po.
it's 2,400.
So you're receiving 2,400 per week.
Yes.
So we will see po. So
Okay.
caregiver po kayo. So
Sure.
person attendance po. Ibig sabihin.
Personal ako. Personal.
Okay po. So Romeo per hour niya 9 hours. yung regular niya.
Mhm.
Then 11 hours. Yung after 9 hours niya, yung 10, 11, 12, 3 hours overtime niya sa time and half.
No.
Apo,
13,
kasi po,
11.
yeah, kasi po, after 12 hours of work, supposed to be double time.
Oh, okay. All right. Then,
So, yeah, after 12 hours is like 12. Yeah.
oh, okay, regular hours. Then hours after more than 8 is 3, right?
Yeah. After 9 po is 3.
Then
Before 12 is
hours
3 hours.
after more than 12
Yeah. So 12 po
is,
supposed to be double ano na po yun.
so how much should they get then?
So yung daily niya 45 hours. Then ang overtime niya time and half is 15 hours and ang double is 60 hours. So tuusip po natin. Saan po kayo nakatira nung city?
LA, like Beverly,
Someone know the minimum wage of LA?
1425.
14.25. So
That's what you said,
14.20,
yeah.
yeah. 14.25 times 45.
Okay. And then, so it's adding it up here in the total earned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And then the time and a half is,
Yeah, 9.
Well, 15, right? 15 hours.
Ang time and half niya ay tapos yeah, continue. Alam niyo where we can see the result.
Can you see where I'm gonna highlight the boxes. So 15 hours. So each week it
Yeah.
looks like 2,671. But then what is it? 2,400?
100, yeah.
Okay. So then each week it's owed 271 and 88 cents that you should
Okay.
be getting paid.
Yeah, even po you receive that much of salary, kahit po ganyan kalaki sahod nyo, pero tutusin po talaga natin yung batas, kung ano natin, ito po ang supposed na ma-receive nyo. So, ang employer po owe you, yeah, that much, 271 per week. So, imagine that much times 4 per month, and time
I work here for
yeah.
11 years.
Oh. Sige, compute natin.
Okay.
Yeah, 1,087 per month. 10 times 12 per year.
Okay, times 12 here.
So yung 15 hours overtime. Can I have a copy of that,
Yes, yes.
please?
Oh wow. Times
Times
11
11.
years.
Yes.
11 years this year.
Mm.
Oh well, last this.
So ayan po. Your employer owe you 143,552.64 for 11 years.
I think we have a good case, huh?
Yeah, let's talk after.
Can I make an appointment?
Yes, yeah.
Can I have a copy of that, please?
Yes, I'll save it and then we can make sure to send it to you.
I have my email. You can email it to me. Thanks, Harold.
Oh, I'm Romeo.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know which one.
The bald guy with the
Hmm.
the shiny head bald guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
So wow, it's a lot of money,
So,
huh?
yeah. Just imagine po if the employer just
Paid
give
off
you,
my house. I can pay off my house with
yeah,
that.
yeah, just imagine po if the employer just give the caregiver like 1,500 or 2,000 per month and just live in and working 24 hours, mas malaki po yung magiging computation. Yeah,
I work 24 hours. Well, yes.
yeah. Mostly po ang caregiver na live-in talagang yung sa labor po, kino-consider na working continuously kasi po you have to respond if the patient need assistance and you need to get up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Romeo, what he
mhm.
said?
Thank you.
what was it, Kuya?
He has chat something.
Oh, can someone share? I'm going to stop screen sharing.
Yeah. Okay. So there's he has said, I think you have to calculate for different years. Yeah, we need to confirm po sa labor sa mga after sa mga susunod na years paano yung computation. Yeah. Pero mostly based sa namin, just give you an idea, figure how much, but yeah, it's depending po din sa na labor. Pero I think that much, still that much. O malapit po dyan sa that number. Yeah, so we will nakita po natin, we see that, yeah, even did you receive like 2,400 per week? We think that employer pay us that much is enough. But if we gonna follow the law, hindi natin alam. We just the employer still owe you something. So that's why I'm thinking what much more if the employer didn't give you any overtime, didn't pay you overtime at all. So mas malaki po yung computation, mas malaki number ang lalabas po dito. And we are ready to serve you if you want. We can like talk to you and compute your salary, computation salary, and if you agree, we can help you also to file a wish claim to the labor. Yeah, just may pag-ugnayan lang kayo, tawagan nyo lang yung direct services sa Filipino Migrant Center to set appointment, and we are always ready to help you. Okay. Okay na ako sa part ko. Yeah.
Sorry, Kuya. I think Isa raised their hand. I think they have a question.
Yeah, sure. But,
Yes po, Kuya. May additional tanong sa chat. If there's additional violations, if they're 24 hours on call, but they're not getting, if they're getting interrupted while they're sleeping. So that's the question. And if there's laws for that.
yes po. We will have also a part 2 training, more details for it, but I give you a preview on it. If you are living caregiver and you're not able to sleep at least 5 hours per day, kailangan po makatulog kayo ng 5 hours per day undisturbed. But if you're not able to sleep 5 hours because you need to get up and like paputol-putol yung tulog nyo, the employer is supposed to pay you 24 hours. They supposed to pay you all the time, the 24 hours because hindi kayo nakatulog ng 24 hours. But kung nakakatulog naman kayo ng 5 hours per day, but every time you get up, you need to take down what time you get up, what time you assist, and what time you're able to sleep. Kasi sometimes, even you just assist the patient only 30 minutes, but it's hard for you to go back to sleep. It's like, puyat pa rin kayo. So, what time exactly did you think that you fall asleep? Yeah, doon po. And then, the employer must pay you yung oras na na-disturb kayo. Yeah, how many hours that you spend for getting up? Yeah, the employer is supposed to pay you. Still. That's why we invite you for our part 2. Yeah, we will I don't know when, but definitely we have a part 2 and part 3. More details doon po sa ganung computation. Nasagot po yung tanong? Did I answer the question?
Yes po.
Okay. Okay, back to the
Another question. Harold asked, any tips for keeping track of sleep? Is Apple Watch accurate? Good question.
Yeah, just track down your activities, most especially in the night. So it's like you know yourself if you get up and you assist a patient, and just track down and basta isipin nyo lang, just think, if you're not able to sleep 5 hours per day, it's like the employer is supposed to pay you the whole time that you stay in. At din po sa part 2 sa part 3 ng training, nandoon po yung yung kaibahan ng live-in sa 24 hours duty. So even you're just living, you just sleep in your working place, but you're not able to go out because you need to on call in the patient, you still nagbabantay ka pa rin, you just keep on the patient. Suppose the employer supposed to pay you because hindi kayo umaalis sa workplace nyo. Tandaan nyo po yun. So napaka-complicated po pag nagtatrabaho kayo sa mga sa mga board and care. Any addition, Joseph, sa mga tanong? If you want to add something. Or Romeo?
No, I just read the chat though. He has give a good tip. Probably just writing, like, for example, like 5 a.m. woke up to help patient to go to the bathroom, went back to sleep at 5:30. Like anytime you wake up, just write down what time it is, and then write down what time you went back to lay down.
Even po na hindi kayo nag-get up, remember, even na hindi kayo nag-get up, but you're not able to sleep because maingay yung pasyente, nag-agitate yung pasyente, they are agitated, you're not able to sleep, you're supposed to be working still. Kasi hindi, istorbo kayo. Ang tinatawag na sleep na undisturbed po yun, yung result nyo. So, if you have 5 hours undisturbed sleep, ibabayaran lang yung mga time na trabaho ka. Pero sa 5 hours na disturb ka pa rin, hindi ka pa rin makatulog, you're not able to sleep because the patient is agitated, shouting, yelling, screaming, and you are whole night, you are awake, the employer must pay you. Clear po yun, malinaw? Okay po, sige. Siguro back na tayo sa malinaw po.
There's another thing in the chat. Sorry, it was in. I don't understand Tagalog. Can someone translate about the assistance and then giving notice to the employer? I don't know what it said.
I think she's asking if she can ask for assistance if she ever needs to send a notice to her employer that she's not paying us right per law. Opo. Yes.
Pwede?
Yes po.
Opo.
Kasi, ewan ko dito kami sa West Hills. Ito ang scenario. Dito kami sa West Hills and actually na-discuss namin sa employer. But then sabi niya, kasi nga undocumented. Required dito sa board and care, 6-bed board and care facility, W2. So parang kami, parang hindi ba legal kami na employee niya.
So they're asking for a W2?
Yeah, actually, yun talaga required. Tapos, 1099 naman binabayad namin. So under kami, pero nagbabayad kami personally ng 1099.
Mm.
3 years na.
Apo.
So, ang ano
Yes.
namin, 24 hours, no? 24 hours
Mm.
kami din. Tapos talagang, talagang mas marami yung time na makakatulog ka naman. Kasi by 7 talagang timing naman na. Pero there were times and still we are still experiencing sleepless nights due to agitation nga ng 2 or 3 residents. So, yun hindi yun man lang sana yung wasted hours na dapat nagpapahinga ka na kasi hindi naman niya kami mabayaran ng per 24 hours, di ba?
So first of all po, yung status po sa immigration, hindi po siya talaga,
Hindi,
it doesn't matter.
oo.
It doesn't matter po to sa pagtatrabaho nyo.
Pero
basta
alam mo nga, okay.
Yeah.
Ang point diyan kasi nila, sila kasi Pilipino na mga yun ang mentor niya Pilipino, although Russian yung aking employer, pero ngayon kasi Pilipino yung so nag-start yun sa Filipino management. So kung ano yung niya, we are working here 5 years na, ganun pa rin. Although na-increase naman kami, pero not really that enough as per the law. Yeah. Yun lang.
Yeah.
Hindi naman kami magiging demanding sa kanya, but at least yung magkaroon man lang ng consideration to,
Yun
Pwede
nga
ba
po
yung ganon?
Opo, ito po yung kahalagahan ng training na to. Kasi po, sometimes tayo mga Pilipino, pag nagtatrabaho tayo, even the employer is mabait sa atin, even the employers like think that we receive a much na salary, na kontento na tayo, but sundin po natin yung batas, ito po dapat ang pagbibigay ng sahod sa inyo. Doesn't matter po ano yung immigration status nyo, kasi once the employer hired you, employee na po kayo. Kung kung magpasahod ng employer sa mga ayaw mag-hire na walang papel, at least hindi kayo na-hired. So, ibang usapan po yun. Pero hinard kayo, ibig sabihin, you become employee and the labor is supposed to take care of you as employee, not undocumented employee. Doesn't matter po. Iba po yung labor, iba yung immigration. So, walang pakialam ang immigration sa labor. Ang usapan po dito, yung labor, so the labor is the one who gonna deal with you, not the immigration. So, saka isa po, nakita natin ang computation ng sahod o paano dapat sumahod ng caregiver. So, isipin nyo po, napakahirap ang trabaho ng caregiver. We always like the risk sa trabaho ng caregiver, I was not getting the right wage na supposed to be na dapat natatanggap natin. So, and we are all the one who doing all the job. Tayo yung nagpapaligo, tayo nagpapakain, tayo lahat. Then the patient is paying the employer every month and they getting all the profit and just paying you. Sweldo nyo na, ninanakaw pa. So isipin nyo lang po, sa hirap ng caregivers, magbuhat, magbulit, magpakain, magpaligo, every day, ginagawa nyo, naglilinis sa bahay. And then, the employer lang umaaseso and the employee is like, ninanakaw pa yung sweldo nyo. Just think of it and we are really here. We can help you. Kung gusto nyo lang po mag-computation na sahod nyo, ipaglaban po natin mga karapatan natin as our workers. Kasi po, the employer, they're gonna used to it, to exploit us because we allow this to exploit us. Inaayaan po natin na ginaganyan tayo mga employer kasi po, maraming mga caregiver ang nakakaranas ng exploitation kasi po, hinahayaan po natin. Pero kaya po, narito ang FMC para ipaalam po sa mga caregiver yung mga karapatan nyo. Para po, encourage kayo na lumabas at ipaglaban nyo yung karapatan nyo. Kasi ito, para po sa inyo talaga, Tony. Sweldo nyo na ninanakaw pa. Okay po.
Okay. Salamat po, salamat.
Nasagot po yung tanong?
Oo.
Sige. Okay.
May isa pang tanong po. How about sa cleaners, how long we are working. Sabi si Elisel.
Cleaners, ang trabaho po niya,
Sabi yan,
cleaners.
Opo.
Yeah, yung cleaners po ay domestic workers. So, mostly hindi po siya personal attendance. So, talagang ano siya, cleaners po siya. Entitled po siya sa 840. So, after 8 hours per hour overtime and 40 hours per week. And then, depende po din yon sa ano, magkano yung minimum wage doon sa city pinagtatrabuhan niya. At saka, how many hours he's working per day. So, remember, pag po domestic workers ka at hindi ka personal attendance, after 8 hours ng trabaho mo per day is overtime, and after 12 hours per day, consider na double time payment, overtime. Nasagot po? Yeah, cleaners is a domestic workers are supposed to receive, yeah, the minimum wage, and more than 8 hours is overtime, and more than 12 hours is overtime. Okay po, nasagot yung tanong? Okay, salamat.
Okay, can we go to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
What's next? Oh, and still on, and then the next one after that? Okay.
So, I just ano lang yung pinag-aralan natin ngayon. So, what kind of domestic workers are you? It's like domestic workers is if you are nanny, if you are caregiver, if you are gardener, cook, or helper, you are the domestic workers. And remember po, yung personal attendance ay mahalaga because dito po yung masusukat yung paanong overtime mababayaran sa inyo. So, personal attendance is 80% of your work, just like caring of the patient. You're not doing household. Your 20% of your time is doing the household. You are personal attendance. Ang companion naman po, companion, 80% ng inyong trabaho, just keep on eye to the patient, just sit, talk to the patient, and not doing the hygiene, not changing diaper. You are companion. Malinaw po yun. And then overtime, pag po personal attendance, 9:45, 9 hours. Ang regular after 9 hours is overtime, after 45 hours per week is overtime. Yun po yung ano, yung sa personal attendance. Okay, Josel? Anything to write ito, add-on?
Hindi. I think you covered it.
Okay. Next slide.
Okay. So this
Yeah,
is
Romeo.
yeah, so this is the last slide. So, you know, like Kuya was mentioning, we really want to help people. And how many people here have, you know, 2 or 3 caregiver friends that you know who you think they should know this information to? Could you put a yes or raise your hand? I see some people raising their hands, right? What if you have more than 10 caregiver friends who need this? Yeah, so you know, we encourage everybody to share this information because yes, the employers are taking advantage of the workers, and it's not that we're letting it happen, it's maybe that we just don't know yet. So imagine if all our caregiver friends and domestic workers that we know, imagine if they all knew this information. So, you know, that's where FMC or Filipino Migrant Center, we want to come in and help calculate these wages. But then we also want to show though that, you know, it's just, what if I only calculate my wage, but then, and I get the money for me, but what about my friends or other Filipinos in other parts all throughout Southern California? They're going through the same thing. And so even if we might work by ourselves or with only a few people in a facility, what if we had more people, all the Filipino or all the caregivers working together to organize, to change the whole caregiver system? that's what we want to fight for. So it's not just us as individuals, but everybody, because you all do so much hard work, and you really deserve to get paid for it, and you have the we have the power to change that. And so that's one thing that we really want people to know and to understand. So if you want us to come to your facility or at the park near your facility and talk with you and your coworkers, or whatever you want us to do, where all our staff is vaccinated, or however you want to do it, we can do it through Zoom or in person. We want to come to you and meet more of the people you know, so we can share this information and get the people to organize and really show our strength in numbers. So just wanted to share that. And then here's the information for everyone, that if you need help calculating your wages, we can help you with that. That's Joselle is listed here, but even our staff or even our volunteers from other organizations are also willing to help and contact you, especially if they live in your area. So, and again, it's, FMC is here to help, but ultimately we know that it's all of you who really have the power to change things, right? So you all are here tonight for that reason. So I'll pass it to Kuya for the closing words.
Yeah. Thank you, Romeo. Like Romeo said, we are here and willing to help, because FMC acknowledge the workers, especially the domestic workers, the caregiver. The caregiver is the one who take caring the elderly, yung mga loved ones nila. We are doing a lot of work. But yung sinasabi natin na thanks sa employer because we have work. But yung ganung pag-iisip na utang natin sa employer natin ang trabaho natin, hindi po, kasi tayo nagtatrabaho. Tayo lahat ang gumagawa ng trabaho, and then the employer just invest. They using their money to invest and they didn't participate in the job. Kayo lahat ang gumagawa ng trabaho, and the most of the patient payment ay napupunta lang sa employer, and then maliit lang yung sinasahod nyo, a little part of the profit ang napupunta sa employer, sa employee. So tulad na sinabi ko kanina, the employer used to exploit workers because we allowed them to exploit us. Kasi okay lang sa atin eh, hindi tayo, inaaya lang tayo na i-exploit tayo na employer. That's why yung marami pong mga workers na hindi nakakatanggap ng tamang sahod, hindi na bibigyan ng natatanggap ng overtime, kasi po, the employer used to exploit us because we allowed them to happen. But if you resist, if we come together, empower ourselves, we can change the system. Hindi po mababago natin yung kalakaran sa pagiging caregiver, ng mga employer sa caregiver, yung may-ari ng home care. Yun lang po ang meron tayo, yung karapatan natin, yung dignidad po natin, yung respeto natin bilang workers. Napalaki po ang na kahalagahan natin sa society, sa lipunan. Tayo po nag-aalaga ng matanda, tayo ang domestic workers, naglilinis ng bahay, nagtatake ng bahay nila. Yung mga fast food workers, sila yung nagbibigay sa atin ng pagkain, nagsaservisyo sa atin. Mga workers po yung gumagawa ng mga bagay na napapagaan ng buhay natin. So, imagine, everything is nothing without the workers. Sino magproduce ng building? Sino gagawa ng building? Sino magagawa ng cellphone, ng TV, ng workers? Ganun po kahalaga workers. So, without workers, wala po hindi assets. So, lahat ng businesses at hindi tatagbo ang society. So, be proud of yourself as a workers. Mahalaga po tayo. Kaya ganun na lang po ang pagpapahalaga ng FMC sa mga workers. Saludo kami at narito kami at handang tumulong sa inyo. So, again, we don't allow them to exploit us. Let's come together. Let's stand. Let's resist. Let's build power, empower ourselves, and fight our rights. Salamat po at magandang gabi po. Salamat sa pagdalo sa aming training. Jose, any words or from you?
I don't know if I can top that, Kuya. You got me crying. Yes. Salamat.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Please, if you don't have your email, if you want the slides, we can email it to you. So please send us your email address, and then we'll let you know when we have the next one in June. And please invite all of your caregiver friends, so we could help more people and have more people fight together, organize together. Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night. Good night.